right now, while you are sitting here, something is happening inside your legs that most doctors have never taken the time to explain. The small arteries in your feet and calves, the ones responsible for keeping your extremities warm and your balance steady, they are losing the ability to open fully. And the terrifying part is this. By the time you notice the signs, the cold feet that never seem to warm up, the leg cramps that wake you at 2 in the morning, the heaviness that hits you halfway up a flight of stairs, the damage is already been building for years, silently, without a single warning. But here is what nobody is telling you. There is a specific chemical mechanism inside your blood vessels that can be reactivated, not with a prescription, not with a procedure, with specific drinks, common drinks. Some of them probably already in your kitchen. And the most powerful one on this entire list, the one that has been proven in clinical settings to improve blood flow by close to 50% within hours, you are almost certainly consuming it completely wrong. I want you to do something right now. Before going any further, go to the comments and type a number from 1 to 10. How cold are your feet right now as you are watching this? Just a number. I want to understand where you are starting from. Now, let me tell you why I make these videos, because what I am about to share with you is not something you will hear in a standard doctor appointment. I practiced vascular and internal medicine for over 20 years. And the turning point for me came the day I watched my own aunt, a woman who walked 4 miles every single morning and had never smoked a day in her life, arrive in the emergency department with critical limb ischemia. Her foot was stone cold. The tissue was beginning to die. And when I looked at her chart from her primary care visits, she had been told repeatedly that her circulation was, quote, within normal limits for her age. Within normal limits for her age. That phrase has ended more lives than most people realize. Because what those appointments never addressed, what the 7-minute billing window does not allow time to explain, is the specific molecular failure that drives circulatory decline in every adult over 60. A failure that is not inevitable. A failure that is completely addressable with the right information. That is what I am here to give you today. Now, I need to explain something fundamental before looking at any individual drink, because without this, nothing on this list will make sense to you. And I want you to understand this deeply enough to explain it to someone else. That is how you know you have really learned it. Here is what is happening in your arteries right now. When you were in your 20s, your blood vessels had a living inner coating called the endothelium. Think of it like the non-stick surface inside a good cast iron pan that has been properly seasoned for 20 years. When that surface is intact, blood flows through freely. Your arteries dilate when they need to. They constrict when they need to. They respond instantly to your body's signals. But here is what nobody warns you about at 60. That endothelial lining gets worn down over decades, not just by age, by chronic inflammation from processed foods, by medications that were designed to manage symptoms but were never intended to protect that inner layer. And most critically, by a specific dietary deficiency that is nearly universal in modern seniors. A deficiency in something called dietary nitrates. Your endothelium produces a gas called nitric oxide. That gas is the signal that tells your arteries to open up and let blood through. And your body has 2 pathways to make it. The first pathway runs through your enzyme system inside the vessel wall itself by your late 60s. That pathway has lost between 60 and 70% of its capacity. 60 to 70%. This is not exaggeration. This is what researchers at Johns Hopkins University have documented in vascular aging studies. Imagine running a hospital on 3 backup generators when you used to have 10. That is your circulatory system right now. But here is the thing that saved my aunt, and the thing that can change everything for you. There is a second pathway, the nitrate pathway. And this one does not depend on your aging enzyme system at all. When you consume foods rich in natural dietary nitrates, Bacteria living on the surface of your tongue begin converting those nitrates into nitrites. Then your stomach acid completes the conversion, producing a flood of nitric oxide that travels directly to your peripheral vessels. This pathway bypasses your failing enzyme machinery completely. It does not care how old you are. It does not care how damaged your endothelium is. It works around the problem. That backdoor is exactly what this list is about. And I want to tease something right now. The number one drink on this list works through this pathway with such efficiency that clinical studies show it rivaling pharmaceutical intervention. I am going to reveal it at the end. Do not leave before you hear it. But first, I need to introduce you to someone. Her name is Sandra. She represents a pattern I have seen repeated dozens of times in my practice over the years. Sandra is 67 years old, a retired postal worker from Virginia. She spent 32 years on her feet delivering mail in all weather, summer heat, winter ice, everything. And for the last 4 years, since she retired, she noticed her feet were always cold, not uncomfortable cold, painfully cold. Even in the summer, she would put on wool socks in July, and her husband would look at her like she had lost her mind. She had been drinking 2 liters of water every day, green tea every morning. She had cut out coffee because she read it was bad for blood pressure. She had done everything she thought she was supposed to do. And still, her feet felt like she was standing on frozen ground. When she finally came to see me, I did a full vascular assessment. And what I found confirmed exactly what I suspected. Her nitric oxide production had dropped to roughly 23% of what it should be for her age. Her endothelium was damaged, not beyond repair, but significantly impaired. She looked at me across the desk with an expression I have seen hundreds of times. The look that says, I did everything right. Why is my body betraying me? And that question right there is the reason this information needs to reach more people. Sandra's body had not betrayed her. The information available to her had failed her completely. I will come back to Sandra throughout today because her story is still unfolding. But first, let me show you exactly why what she was doing was not working. Starting at the bottom of this list. Number 10, regular water. I know, every physician tells you to hydrate. And dehydration absolutely makes your blood thicker and harder to pump through already narrowed vessels. That part is true. But here is the critical nuance that most people miss. Rehydrating simply returns you to baseline. It does not enhance your circulation beyond what your current vascular architecture allows. A study in the Journal of Applied Physiology confirmed that adequate hydration in older adults improved blood flow by roughly 8%. 8%. When you are fighting a 60 to 70% deficit in nitric oxide production, 8% is barely measurable. Water keeps you alive. It is not a circulatory therapy. If your arteries are stiff and narrowed because of endothelial damage, drinking extra water will not widen them. You need compounds that stimulate nitric oxide production at the source. Plain water is not one of them. But there is something water does wrong that most people are not aware of, and it connects to number 9 on this list. Number 9 is green tea. And before you feel validated because you switched to green tea years ago, let me show you the problem. Green tea does contain a compound called EGCG, a catechin. And in sustained use over many months, that catechin can support the health of the endothelial lining and reduce vascular inflammation. The science is real. But there are 2 specific problems that make green tea nearly useless for immediate circulatory support in adults over 60. Problem 1, timeline. The vascular benefits of EGCG require consistent consumption for several months before you see meaningful changes in arterial flexibility. That timeline does not help you prevent a fall next Tuesday. Problem 2, temperature and caffeine. Here is what almost nobody tells you. EGCG breaks down rapidly above 170 degrees Fahrenheit. If you are pouring boiling water directly over your tea leaves, and most people are, you are cooking away the very compound you are trying to consume every single morning. destroying the benefit before you even take a sip. And then there is caffeine. Caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. It temporarily tightens blood vessels. For a senior already dealing with reduced arterial compliance, that temporary constriction can directly counteract the modest benefit you were hoping to gain. Sandra had been drinking green tea brewed at full boil temperature for 8 years. 8 years of thinking she was doing something powerful for her cardiovascular system, when in reality she was consuming bitter hot water with most of the therapeutic compound destroyed before it ever reached her cup. That is not her fault. That is an information failure. But there is a drink that actually can work through the antioxidant pathway, and it works much faster. That brings us to number 8. Number 8, Tart cherry juice. Now this one has legitimate science behind it, and I want to give it fair credit before I tell you why I still struggle to recommend it. Tart cherries contain compounds called anthocyanins. These are the same pigments that give the fruit its deep red color, and those anthocyanins have been shown in research to reduce stiffness in the arterial wall itself. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found an 18% improvement in flow-mediated dilation after 12 weeks of consistent consumption. That is meaningful. That is a real effect. But here is my clinical concern, and it is not a small one. A single 8-ounce glass of Tart cherry juice contains between 20 and 25 grams of sugar. Even natural sugar, even fruit sugar, causes an insulin spike, an elevated insulin. This is the part most people have never heard. Directly inhibits nitric oxide production in the endothelial lining. The very thing you are trying to improve. You are helping yourself with one mechanism while simultaneously damaging another. For anyone who is pre-diabetic, managing blood sugar, or carrying extra weight around the midsection, and that describes a significant portion of adults over 60, the metabolic cost of daily Tart cherry juice frequently outweighs the vascular benefit. I have seen patients whose blood sugar control worsened noticeably after adding this to their daily routine. And there is one specific drug interaction you need to know if you are taking any blood thinners, including aspirin at therapeutic doses. The anticoagulant compounds in concentrated cherry products can amplify the blood thinning effect. Talk to your doctor before making this a regular habit if you are on any anticoagulation therapy. But if the anthocyanin pathway is what you want, there is a version that delivers a higher concentration with far less sugar. That brings us to number 7. Number 7, pomegranate juice. And pomegranate earns its place higher on this list because of a specific mechanism that nothing else on this list can replicate. Pomegranate contains compounds called punicalagins, powerful antioxidants that do not just help produce nitric oxide. They actually protect the nitric oxide molecule from being destroyed by free radicals after it forms. Think of it this way. Most antioxidants are like workers building a structure. Punicalagins are also bodyguards standing around the finished structure, making sure nothing tears it down. Clinical studies show regular consumption can improve blood flow by close to 22% over time. And there is evidence of reduced arterial plaque accumulation with long-term use. That is significant. The problems are cost and sugar content. Pure pomegranate extract can cost $15 or more for a single serving, and standard pomegranate juice products often contain over 30 grams of sugar per serving. I have had patients try to improve their circulation with daily pomegranate juice and watch their blood sugar become progressively harder to manage, which ultimately causes more vascular damage than the drink was preventing. Same drug interaction warning as Tart cherry applies here. If you are on warfarin specifically, pomegranate compounds can affect how your liver metabolizes the drug and push your INR levels in unpredictable directions. This is well documented. Do not add daily pomegranate juice to your routine if you are on warfarin without discussing it with the physician managing your anticoagulation. Now, here is where I need to come back to Sandra. Because when I told her that everything she had been doing for 8 years was either ineffective or counterproductive, she did not get angry. She got quiet. And then she said something that I think about every time I sit down to create content like this. She said, "My doctor knows I have cold feet. He told me it was just poor circulation. He said to wear warm socks, and that was the end of the conversation. Wear warm socks. That is the information the medical system delivered to this woman after 32 years of walking routes and now struggling to feel her own toes. That is not her doctor's fault as a person. That is a 7-minute appointment structure that bills for diagnosis codes, not for patient education. That is a system that was designed around pharmaceutical interventions, not nutritional biochemistry. That is an outdated set of guidelines that never incorporated the nitrate research that has been accumulating in peer-reviewed journals for the last 15 years. And it is a failure that is happening to millions of people right now. That day, I gave Sandra a new protocol from scratch, and I told her something I am going to tell you now. Your body has a backdoor, a way to bypass the aging enzyme system that has been failing you. And the food and drink you consume every day is either opening that door or keeping it locked. Let me show you where this list starts to get genuinely powerful. Number 6, pure unsweetened dark cocoa powder. And before you imagine hot chocolate, I stop. What I am describing has almost nothing in common with the sugary powder mixes in the grocery store tin. I am talking about raw, bitter, pharmaceutical-grade cocoa powder. The kind that most people find genuinely unpleasant to drink without sweetener. This substance is rich in flavanols that directly stimulate the endothelial lining to produce nitric oxide. A meta-analysis that reviewed 42 controlled clinical studies confirmed that therapeutic cocoa consumption improved flow-mediated dilation by an average of 24%. And unlike Tart cherry or pomegranate, this effect is measurable within 2 hours of a single dose. The protocol is specific: 20 grams of raw cocoa powder in 8 ounces of water heated to approximately 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Not boiling, 160 degrees. And this is critical. No dairy milk. Milk protein binds directly to the flavanols and prevents their absorption in the gut. If you need a sweetener, use stevia or monk fruit. Not sugar, not honey. Now, the drug interaction warning for cocoa, and this one matters. If you are taking blood thinners of any kind, flavanols at therapeutic doses affect platelet aggregation. Not dramatically, but measurably. If you are on warfarin or any anticoagulant, start with 10 grams daily, not 20. And discuss this with your physician before increasing the dose. And if you are sensitive to caffeine, raw cocoa contains meaningful amounts that some people feel acutely, especially in the evening hours. Take this in the morning only if you have any caffeine sensitivity at all. That said, for most people, without those specific contraindications, this is a fast-acting and genuinely effective tool. But cocoa still operates through the antioxidant pathway. And this list has not yet reached the direct nitrate pathway that bypasses your aging enzymes entirely. That is where the real power is. Number 5, watermelon juice. This entry surprises almost every patient I discuss it with, because watermelon seems like a summer treat, not a circulatory intervention. But the biochemistry here is remarkable. Watermelon contains an amino acid called L-citrulline. And here is why L-citrulline is superior to the L-arginine supplements you may have seen marketed for circulation. When you take L-arginine directly as a supplement, a significant portion is broken down in the gut and liver before it can do its work. The bioavailability is inconsistent and often disappointing in older adults. L-citrulline takes a completely different route. Your kidneys convert L-citrulline into L-arginine with dramatically higher efficiency than any oral supplement. And that L-arginine is then converted into nitric oxide directly at the point of need inside the vessel wall itself. Studies show arterial function improvements of close to 28% after 6 weeks of daily consumption. Patients consistently report feeling warmth returning to cold extremities within 3 hours of the first glass. The limitation here is purely practical. Fresh watermelon juice is seasonal in most climates, and the bottled versions you find in grocery stores are almost universally pasteurized to the point of eliminating most of the L-citrulline content. The heat processing destroys the amino acid. Unless you have access to a good juicer and fresh watermelon year-round, this is difficult to sustain as a daily protocol. When fresh watermelon is available to you to use it, the effect is real and it is faster than most people expect. If you are finding this information helpful right now, I need you to hit like before you scroll further, because the next two drinks are the ones that change everything. And I want the algorithm to put this in front of every senior who is sitting right now with cold hands and heavy legs, having no idea that what they are eating and drinking is either helping them or quietly making it worse. The number I am about to share with you next: the improvement in blood flow. Surprised even me when I first saw the research. Number 4, hibiscus tea. And if you are on a fixed income and need the most powerful circulatory intervention available without any special equipment or expensive ingredients, this is the one you need to hear. Hibiscus works through a mechanism that is completely distinct from everything else on this list. It acts similarly to a class of pharmaceutical drugs called ACE inhibitors. If you have high blood pressure, your doctor may have prescribed you something in this class. Hibiscus contains specific organic acids that relax the smooth muscle layer surrounding your arterial wall directly, not through nitric oxide, not through antioxidants, through direct relaxation of the vessel itself. A study published in the Journal of Hypertension found that consistent hibiscus consumption improved flow-mediated dilation by 31%, while dropping systolic blood pressure by double digits in as little as 10 days of regular use. 10 days. That is faster than most blood pressure medications reach therapeutic effect. It costs roughly $3 for a month of daily servings. You brew it like any other tea. It contains no sugar. It has a tart cranberry-like flavor that most people find pleasant once they adjust. Now, here is the warning that I consider non-negotiable. If you are currently taking any blood pressure medication, any at all, adding 2 cups of hibiscus tea daily can push your pressure too low. Hypotension in a senior means dizziness. Dizziness means falls. And falls in adults over 65 are the leading cause of traumatic injury and loss of independence. I am not being overly cautious here. I am being precise. Do not add therapeutic amounts of hibiscus to your routine if you are on antihypertensive medication without discussing it with the physician managing that medication first. Show them this information. Bring the conversation to them directly. A good doctor will take this seriously. If you are not on blood pressure medication, hibiscus tea is one of the most powerful and most affordable vascular interventions available to you without a prescription. Now, this is the part of the list where the mechanism changes entirely. Everything from number 10 through 4 has worked through antioxidants or amino acid precursors or direct vascular relaxation. All valid pathways, all meaningful, but the top 3 work through the nitrate pathway, the backdoor into your vascular system that bypasses your aging enzyme machinery completely, and the power difference between these and everything above them is significant. Let me explain why this pathway works so much faster. When your tongue comes into contact with dietary nitrates, the bacteria living in the grooves of your tongue begin converting those nitrates into nitrites immediately, even before you swallow. Your stomach acid then converts those nitrites into nitric oxide with almost 100% efficiency. The gas enters your bloodstream within minutes and reaches your peripheral vessels, including the arteries in your legs and feet, within 90 minutes. This pathway does not ask your aging enzyme system for permission. It does not depend on your endothelium being healthy enough to respond. It delivers the signal directly. Number 3, fresh celery juice. I dismissed this for years. I thought it was wellness theater. I was wrong. Fresh celery contains some of the highest concentrations of natural dietary nitrates of any vegetable you can find in a standard grocery store. When you drink fresh celery juice, the conversion begins on your tongue before you even swallow. Research indicates a 35 to 40% improvement in peripheral blood flow within 3 hours of a single glass. That is nearly 5 times the impact of plain water. And the sugar content is minimal. The glycemic effect is negligible. The barriers are practical. You need a juicer. You need fresh celery, not celery seed, not celery extract. Fresh, raw celery stalks. And you need to tolerate a flavor profile that most of my patients describe as somewhere between very salty and swamp water. I have patients who hold their nose and drink 4 ounces like a shot of medicine because they understand the mechanism well enough to commit. Now, the drug warnings for celery juice. There are 2 specific ones. First, if you are on lithium for mood stabilization, high daily intake of fresh celery can affect lithium clearance from your body and alter blood levels in clinically significant ways. This is documented. Do not add daily fresh celery juice to your routine if you are on lithium. Second, if you are managing a thyroid condition with medication, large volumes of raw goitrogenic vegetables consumed daily can interfere with thyroid hormone conversion. Celery at high doses falls into this category. Talk to your endocrinologist before making this a daily practice. For everyone outside those 2 specific populations, celery juice is a powerful and inexpensive addition to your protocol. Now, Sandra came back to see me at her 6-week follow-up, and she had not said much between visits. She is not someone who messages frequently. She sent 1 note around day 12 that said, "I feel warmer, but I still do not think it is working yet." I told her that was exactly the right signal at day 12, and to trust the biology. Her daughter walked her in to the follow-up. And before Sandra even sat down, her daughter looked at me and said, "You have to tell me what you changed," because she is walking differently. Sandra sat down and she said, "I think I've been asking the wrong question my whole life. I kept asking why my body was failing me. But the real question was, what was I missing that my body needed?" What was she missing? That is the right question. And the answer is, what comes next? Number 2, the Arugula smoothie. And I know that sounds like something from a trendy restaurant menu, but stay with me, because the nitrate density in Arugula is extraordinary. 2 cups of fresh raw Arugula contain close to 480 milligrams of dietary nitrates. Let me put that in context. That is a pharmacological dose, not a nutritional supplement dose. The same category of dosing that researchers use in controlled clinical trials when they are trying to produce measurable vascular effects in a short period of time. When you blend Arugula, you rupture the plant cell walls and release those nitrates into a highly bioavailable liquid form. Studies indicate that a nitrate-dense green smoothie built around Arugula can improve peripheral blood flow by close to 42% after just 2 weeks of daily consumption. 42%. That is a number that begins to approach what some pharmaceutical vasodilators achieve. The recipe I give patients who want this level of result is specific. 2 cups of fresh Arugula, 1 cup of frozen blueberries, half of a medium banana, 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk. Blend immediately in a high-powered blender and drink within 10 to 15 minutes of blending, because once the plant cell walls are broken, the nitrates begin degrading quickly through oxidation. And this is important. A weak or aging blender will leave Arugula partially intact. You need full cell wall rupture to release the nitrates effectively. If your blender is more than 7 or 8 years old and struggles with leafy greens, you will not get the full benefit. Now, the drug interaction warning for Arugula at this volume. Arugula is high in vitamin K. High doses of vitamin K directly interfere with warfarin's anticoagulation mechanism by competing with the same pathway the drug relies on. If you are on warfarin, do not make the Arugula smoothie a daily practice without discussing it with your physician and having your INR monitored closely during any dietary change of this magnitude. For those not on warfarin or any other anticoagulant, this smoothie is extraordinary, and the results at 2 weeks are often dramatic enough that patients describe them without prompting. Now, let me tell you what Sandra said at her 4-week check-in. She had been doing the full protocol I was building toward, the foundation drink plus the smoothie 3 times per week. And she came in and put her hands on the desk in front of me and said, "Touch my feet." I did. They were warm. Not perfectly warm, not the way a 20-year-old's feet feel, but genuinely warm. Warm enough that she had stopped wearing the wool socks in her own home. Warm enough that she noticed the difference every single morning when she got out of bed. Her vascular ultrasound at that visit showed a 34% improvement in flow-mediated dilation in the lower extremity arteries. Her primary care physician called me after receiving the report. She could not explain the change based on anything in Sandra's medication or lifestyle documentation. I told her. The back door was opened, that was all. And now I am going to show you exactly how to open it. Number one, pure beetroot juice. And I want to be precise about what that phrase means, because this distinction is the difference between real results and complete disappointment. Pure beetroot juice is not beet-flavored juice. It is not a juice blend with apple or grape or pear added to make it sweeter. It is not beet powder reconstituted in water. It is cold-pressed, unfiltered, no additives, no added sugar. Pure beetroot juice. 8 ounces every single morning on an empty stomach. Here is why this is the gold standard of everything on this list. Beets contain the highest bioavailable concentration of dietary nitrates of any whole food on earth, not per serving, per gram. When you drink 8 ounces of pure beetroot juice on an empty stomach, you are delivering between 300 and 400 milligrams of nitrates directly into the tongue bacteria conversion pathway. That pathway does not care how old your enzyme system is. It bypasses the problem entirely. A landmark study at Johns Hopkins University followed older adults who drank pure beetroot juice daily for 15 consecutive days. Researchers measured arterial function using gold standard flow-mediated dilation testing at the end of the trial period. Walking endurance improved measurably across the group, and arterial stiffness, measured at the aortic level, dropped by 38%. 38% in 15 days. That is not a modest lifestyle improvement. That is a pharmacological intervention using food. And the research does not stop there. A 2021 meta-analysis in the British Journal of Nutrition reviewed 26 randomized controlled trials examining beetroot juice and vascular outcomes in adults over 55. The consistent finding across studies was a reduction in systolic blood pressure averaging between 4 and 5 millimeters of mercury, alongside meaningful improvements in peripheral circulation and exercise tolerance in people with existing arterial stiffness. Now, I need to be completely transparent with you about 2 specific medical considerations, because I would rather be honest with you now than have you stop drinking this out of panic for the wrong reason. First, beturia. That is the clinical term for what happens when your urine or stool turns pink or red after drinking beet juice. It affects roughly 15% of the population. It looks alarming the first time it happens. It is completely harmless. Your body is simply not breaking down the red pigment in beets, called beta-cyanine, efficiently before it exits your system. It has no medical significance whatsoever. Do not stop the protocol because of this. Second, oxalates. Beets contain moderate amounts of oxalic acid. If you have a personal history of calcium oxalate kidney stones, please have a conversation with your physician before starting this protocol. Oxalic acid can contribute to stone formation in genetically susceptible individuals. This is a real and documented risk for that specific population. For everyone else, it is not a concern. Now, there's one more thing I need to tell you. And this might be the most important practical piece of information in this entire video. Stop using antibacterial mouthwash. I know that sounds completely unrelated to what I have been describing, but here is the connection. The entire nitrate conversion pathway depends on bacteria living in the grooves on the surface of your tongue. Those bacteria are the first step. Without them, the nitrates you consume pass through your system without converting into nitrite, and the nitric oxide production never happens. The whole mechanism fails at the very first step. A strong antibacterial mouthwash kills those bacteria completely. You can drink a full glass of pure beetroot juice immediately after using antibacterial mouthwash and receive almost none of the vascular benefit. Research confirms this directly. A 2016 study in the journal Free Radical Biology and Medicine showed that using chlorhexidine-based mouthwash completely abolished the blood pressure lowering effect of dietary nitrates in healthy volunteers. You are sterilizing your mouth and starving your blood vessels at the same time. Switch to a fluoride rinse without antibacterial agents if you want to use a rinse, or simply brush your teeth well and skip the mouthwash entirely. Your vascular system will thank you for it. Now let me give you the complete protocol. And then I need to be honest with you about what to expect week by week. Because that honesty is what keeps people from quitting too early. Every single morning, empty stomach, 8 ounces of pure beetroot juice. That is the foundation, non-negotiable. Buy the pure version from your grocery store or order it online. It typically costs between $2 and $4 per 8-ounce serving. Look for brands with no added ingredients. 3 times per week. Add the Arugula smoothie in the afternoon, not within 4 hours of the beet juice. Give your digestive system adequate time between them. Twice per week. If you have access to a juicer, add 4 ounces of fresh celery juice as a mid-morning boost. If you are not on blood pressure medication, consider adding 1 cup of hibiscus tea each evening before sleep. It works through a complementary mechanism and the effects accumulate during overnight hours. Now, week 1. I am not going to tell you this is easy or that you will feel an immediate transformation because that would be dishonest. Week 1 is a calibration period. Your gut microbiome is adjusting to higher nitrate intake. You may notice your urine color changing. Some people feel a mild bloating or digestive shift in the first few days. You may feel a subtle warmth in your extremities. Or you may feel nothing noticeably different. Both are normal at this stage. Push through. The biology is working whether you feel it or not. Week 2 is where the first real signals appear. Slightly warmer feet in the morning when you first get out of bed, slightly less heaviness in your legs when you climb stairs, marginally better color in the skin of your lower legs when you look in the mirror under good light. These are early indicators that your endothelium is beginning to respond to the sustained nitrate load. Week 3, this is the week I hear from patients. Almost without exception, something shifts noticeably. The warmth in your feet becomes consistent rather than occasional. If you have been having leg cramps at night, they begin to diminish in frequency. Energy levels often improve because your circulatory system is delivering oxygen more efficiently to peripheral tissue that has been partially starved. Week 4 and beyond. This is where structural changes begin to accumulate, not just temporary dilation from a single dose. Actual measurable changes in how your arterial wall behaves chronically. Reduced stiffness. Improved walking endurance. Some patients notice changes in the texture and color of the skin on their lower legs as capillary reperfusion improves in tissue that has been oxygen deprived for years. Most people who quit this protocol quit during week 1, before the biology has had time to respond. Do not be one of them. The discomfort you feel in week 1 is not evidence that it is not working. It is evidence that your system is adjusting. There is a difference. And knowing that difference is what separates the people who get results from the people who give up. I want you to do something right now before you close this video. Take a photograph of your feet and lower legs right now. Note the color of the skin. Note the temperature when you touch them. Note whether your toenails look healthy and growing or thin and slow. Then do this protocol for 30 days and take another photograph. The difference for most people is undeniable enough that they bring it to their doctor's appointment. Now, one final note before the close. And this is the bonus section for people who are serious about accelerating results. If you want to see faster improvement in the first 2 weeks, do not eat or drink anything, not even water, for 30 minutes after your morning beet juice. The empty stomach absorption window matters. Anything that enters your gut during that window competes with the nitrate conversion process. Give the juice 30 minutes of priority access and add a 5-minute gentle walk immediately after drinking it. Not vigorous, a comfortable warm-up pace. Movement increases blood flow to your extremities and helps distribute the nitric oxide produced during that first absorption window to exactly the places you want it to reach, your feet, your calves. The tissue that has been waiting for this signal. Sandra does both of these things now. She sent me a message 4 months after that first appointment. She said she walked 1.5 miles on a cold morning last week, and her feet stayed warm the entire time. She said, "I thought this was just how getting older worked. I had no idea there was anything I could do." There is always something you can do. You now understand the molecular mechanism behind why your circulation declines. You understand what the nitrate pathway is and why it works around your aging enzyme system. You know which drinks actually trigger it and at what protocol level. And you know which drinks are wasting your time and why. Type I finished in the comments right now if you watch this entire video. And then I want you to think of one specific person in your life. A parent, a sibling, a spouse, a neighbor you see struggling to walk from the car to the front door. Send this video to that one person today, not tomorrow, today. Because if this information found you at the right time, it will find them at the right time too. Next week, I am going to show you something that most people find genuinely shocking when they first hear it. A study that tracked over 3,000 older adults found that a specific behavior, something close to 87% of seniors do every single morning without thinking, is actively undermining their entire vascular system. Even if they are doing everything else right, even if they are drinking beet juice, even if they are exercising, that behavior cancels a significant portion of the benefit. That is next week. Do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not.